Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Storytime with Uncle Monkey. I am your Uncle Monkey, and today we're going to be reading the story of The Frog Prince. In olden days, when wishing still did some good, there lived a king whose daughters were all beautiful. But the youngest was so beautiful that the sun itself, which after all has seen so much, was astonished every time it shone in her face. Near the king's castle lay a big, dark forest, and in that forest, beneath an old linden tree, there was a well or a spring. Now, when the day was good and hot, the princess used to go out into the forest and sit on the rim of the cool spring. And when she was bored, she took a golden ball, threw it in the air, and caught it. That was her favorite pastime. Now, on one occasion, the princess's golden ball didn't fall into the little hand she had been holding up, but it hit the ground alongside it and rolled right into the water. The princess watched it go, but the ball disappeared, and the well was deep, so deep that you couldn't see the bottom. Then she started to cry, and cried louder and louder, unable to console herself. And as she was lamenting that way, someone called out to her, "What are you up to, princess? You're yelling so that a stone would take pity." She looked around to see where the voice came from, and she caught sight of a frog who was sticking its big, ugly head out of the water. "Oh, it's you, old water slapper," she said. "I'm crying over my golden ball, which has fallen into the well." "Be quiet and stop crying," the frog replied. "I can help you, but what will you give me if I bring up your toy again?" "Whatever you like, dear frog," she said. "My gowns, my pearls and jewels, even the golden crown that I'm wearing." The frog replied, "I don't want your gowns, your pearls and jewels, or your golden crown. But if you're willing to love me, and I can be your companion and playmate, sit next to you at your little table, eat out of your little golden plate, drink out of your little goblet, sleep in your little bed. If you promise me that, I'll go down and bring the golden ball back up to you right now." "Oh, yes," she said. "I promise everything you want, if only you bring me back the ball." But she was thinking, "My, how that silly frog babbles. It sits in the water with its own kind and croaks, and it can't be a companion to any person." When the frog had received her consent, it plunged its head in and sank down. After a while, it came paddling up again with the ball in its mouth and threw it onto the grass. The princess was overjoyed when she saw her pretty toy again. She picked it up and dashed away with it. "Wait, wait," called the frog. "Take me along. I can't run as fast as you." But it did the frog no good to croak after her as loud as it could. She paid no attention to it, but hastened homeward, and soon forgot all about the poor frog, which had to plunge down into its well again. The next day, when she had sat down at table with the king and all the courtiers, and was eating out of her little golden plate, something came creeping up the marble stairs. Slip slop, and when it had reached the top, it knocked on the door and called, "Youngest princess, open up!" She ran over, wishing to see who was outside. But when she opened the door, the frog was sitting on the other side. She quickly slammed the door shut, sat back down at the table, and was terribly upset. The king naturally saw that her heart was pounding violently and said, "My child, why are you so afraid? Can it be a giant standing outside the door, trying to take you away?" "Oh no," she replied. "It isn't a giant, but a disgusting frog." "What does the frog want of you?" "Oh, father dear, yesterday when I was sitting by the spring in the forest playing, my golden ball fell into the water. And because I was crying so, the frog brought it up again, and because he insisted on it, I promised that it could be my companion. But I never thought it could come out of its water. Now it's right outside and wants to come in to me." Meanwhile, there was a second knock, and the call, "Youngest princess, open the door. Don't you remember what you said to me yesterday about the cool well water? Youngest princess, open the door." The king said, "Whatever promise you made, you must keep. Go over and let it in." She went and opened the door, and the frog hopped in, following always at her heels, all the way to her chair. There it sat, calling, "Lift me up to you." She hesitated until the king finally ordered her to. Once the frog was on the chair, it wanted to be on the table. When it was sitting there, it said, "Now shove your little golden plate closer so we can eat together." She did do so, but it was obvious that she did it unwillingly. The frog enjoyed its food, but nearly every morsel she ate stuck in her throat. Finally, the frog said, "Now I'm full and tired, so carry me into your little bedroom and make up your little silk bed so we can lie down to sleep." The princess started to cry. She was afraid of the cold frog, which she didn't dare touch. But the king got angry and said, "When someone has helped you when you were in distress, you mustn't despise him afterwards." Then she picked up the frog with 2 fingers and carried it upstairs and placed it in a corner. But when she was lying in bed, it came crawling over and said, "I'm tired. I want to sleep just as much as you do. Pick me up, or I'll tell your father." This time she became wildly angry. She picked it up and hurled it against the wall with all her might. "Now you can rest, you disgusting frog." But when it fell down, it was no longer a frog, but a prince with lovely, friendly eyes. Now, by her father's wishes, he was her loving companion and husband. He then told her that he had been placed under a spell by an evil sorcerer, and that no one could have delivered him from the well except her. The next day, they would journey together to his kingdom. Then they fell asleep, and the following morning, when the sun awakened them, a carriage drove up drawn by 8 white horses, which had white ostrich plumes on their heads and were harnessed with golden chains. In the back stood the young king's servant, Faithful Heinrich. Faithful Heinrich had been so downcast after his master had been turned into a frog that he had 3 iron bands placed around his heart to keep it from bursting with pain and sorrow. But the carriage was now returning the young king to his kingdom. Faithful Heinrich helped the couple get in, took his place at the back again, and was filled with joy at the deliverance. And after they had traveled some distance, the prince heard a snapping sound behind him, as if something had broken. So he turned around and called, "Heinrich, I hear the carriage break." "No, my lord, that's a mistake. It's a band from around my heart, which always felt a painful smart all the time that in the well as a frog you used to dwell." Again, and once again, there was a snap as they rode, and each time the prince thought the carriage was breaking. But it was really only the bands coming off Faithful Heinrich's heart, because his master was rescued and happy. I hope you enjoyed that one. This was always a favorite when I was young, and it's probably a little different than you've heard it. Let me know in the comments what you think about this story, and maybe if you have suggestions for the next one, go ahead and tell me. Anyway, I hope everybody is well, and I'll see you next time.